Welcome, beloved soul. You have found this message for a reason far deeper than coincidence. There is something sacred drawing your spirit here, so take a deep breath, let your heart soften, and allow these words to hold you like a gentle prayer, because someone wept for you. And heaven listened. Not one tear was wasted. Not one cry went unnoticed. What was whispered in sorrow has been answered in spirit. Perhaps you've felt the weight of someone's silence lately, the ache of a connection that once felt sure. Perhaps you've wondered, did they ever truly care? Did they feel the loss too? The truth is gentler and deeper than your pain. Because yes, they wept, not just once, but many times, in private, in prayer, in the quiet hours of the night when the world slept and their heart couldn't pretend it was fine anymore. See, the love between souls doesn't just vanish. Even when words are broken, even when paths diverge, even when timing turns into waiting, their soul remembered you. And heaven recorded every moment they longed for your peace, your safety, your healing. You may not have seen it, but they prayed for you. And when they wept, God was there. The angels surrounded them. And the Spirit moved gently. For you. This is not to reopen a wound, but to help you understand just how deeply you are held. Not just by a person, but by God, who saw your name woven into another's journey and made it holy. If you've been carrying the weight of wondering, if your absence meant anything, if your presence ever mattered, let me speak to that aching place in you now. Yes, you mattered. You still do. And the one who formed your heart has not stopped writing your story. There's no goodbye in God's language, only a redirection, only restoration waiting in sacred time. Sometimes heaven allows the breaking, so healing can be built on truth. Sometimes the tears they cried are part of a deeper preparation for the reunion that comes with grace. Let your soul rest in this. You were not forgotten. You were not unwept for. And even now, someone is asking heaven how to love you better than before. Pause with me here, gentle soul. Let this be a sacred moment. If these words are reaching a tender place in you, I invite you to walk this journey with us. Subscribe for more messages like this, so your spirit always has a peaceful place to return to. And if something here stirred your heart, leave a comment with your reflection or prayer. You never know who you might encourage simply by sharing your truth. And if you feel moved, your support through a super thanks helps keep this space alive and full of light for others like you. Thank you truly from the depths of our soul. Now, let us return to the message. You might wonder, if God heard their tears, what did He do with them? He gathered them like rain in His hands. He turned them into rainbows of mercy, into seeds of redemption, into quiet guidance for the days ahead. Nothing is lost in God. No prayer whispered in the dark goes unnoticed. And when someone cried for you, even if they didn't know how to fix what was broken, God began restoring what they couldn't reach. The person who wept over you was carrying their own quiet wounds too. Sometimes people disappear not because they don't care, but because they're afraid their presence will harm what they love. Sometimes they love you so deeply, they'd rather walk away than bring confusion or chaos to your peace. Truth is, God can handle confusion. God can handle broken beginnings. And He can turn even the silence into a sacred invitation for both of you to grow. You may never hear their tears in this lifetime. You may never see them fall apart behind closed doors. But heaven saw it all. And heaven is still working in them, working in you, weaving together something more honest, more holy, not just for reunion, but for redemption. Because love, real love, is never meant to destroy. It's meant to reflect God, and what comes from God He tends to. He protects, He resurrects. Can I ask you something gentle? Can you trust that this story is not over? Can you let go of needing to control how it unfolds and allow God to be the author again? He is not finished, and the one who wept is still being refined in spirit. Just as you are. Rest in this truth. When heaven hears weeping, heaven responds with mercy, with purpose, with divine alignment. You may feel like nothing is changing, but there are tears you haven't seen, prayers you haven't heard, and miracles being prepared because of what was spoken in surrender. You are not alone in this season, even when the phone stays silent, even when the nights feel endless. Someone is carrying your name in their heart, and heaven is carrying you both. Pause with me again. Dear soul. If this message has brought you peace, share it with someone who needs the same comfort. Let it be a soft hand reaching out to a heart that's been hurting in silence. And if you feel led to support this message with a super thanks, know that your kindness helps us continue creating sacred, peaceful spaces for souls who need hope. Every offering is received with humility and gratitude. And every soul it reaches is part of the blessing you've made possible. You are part of a holy ripple. Thank you. And now, as we close this part of the message, breathe with me one more time. You are not forgotten. You are not abandoned. You are being seen, and someone somewhere still sees you with eyes of love, because when they wept, heaven heard. And heaven has not stopped moving. Return here when the ache rises again. This space is always here for you. Until part 2. Remain in peace and let the love that's been prayed over you carry you gently through the night. Welcome back, beloved soul. If your spirit found rest in part 1, then know that the same gentle presence is with us again now. You are not returning to a screen. You are returning to sacred ground, to the healing space where heaven still speaks. Let your heart be still. Let your breath be soft. And let this truth sink in once more. When they wept over you, heaven was listening, and heaven has not stopped. There's a kind of sorrow that cannot be explained. It doesn't come with clear words. It doesn't always come with closure. But it does come from love. Sometimes the deepest grief is for someone still living. For a bond that still exists but feels just out of reach. For a person who carries your name but can no longer say it aloud. This person. The one who wept over you. They were not crying because you were gone. They were crying because they never stopped carrying you. Even if they said goodbye, even if they disappeared, even if they tried to forget, their soul remembered, and the tears? They were sacred signs of what never left them. You may wonder, why would God allow such pain? Why would heaven let two hearts ache for each other in silence? But sometimes, heaven delays reconnection so that transformation can take root. Because what would reunion mean if both souls returned, still broken, still unsure, still guarded? No. God desires fullness, wholeness, restoration, not repetition. So in the tears they cried, God was not absent. He was refining. He was preparing. He was gently shaping their soul so they would never again take you for granted. Do you feel that soft ache rising again? The one that wonders if you were enough? The one that fears being forgotten? Let me pour peace into that place right now. You were always enough. Not perfect, but enough. Enough to stir a soul. Enough to mark a heart forever. Enough to be missed. Not just by someone, but by heaven itself. Because your presence was divine. And when they wept, God didn't only listen. He held them. He held you. And he began writing a better story. You might not know the full story yet. You might not feel the healing yet. But trust this, heaven is never late. And restoration doesn't always begin with words. Sometimes it begins with weeping. There's beauty in that kind of brokenness. Because tears are honest. Tears are prayers the soul cannot silence. And when those tears were shed over you, they became the water that softened the soil for something new to grow. So do not despise the silence. Do not curse the waiting, and please, do not harden your heart to the possibility of redemption. God is not asking you to forget what hurt. He is asking you to trust what he is healing. Pause here with me. If these words are nurturing something in you, consider subscribing to stay close to this peaceful space. Let it be your spiritual home when the world feels too loud. And share your thoughts or prayer requests in the comments. Your story could be the light someone else is searching for. And if you've been moved by this message, a humble, super thanks helps us continue creating sacred, spirit-led content for souls longing for stillness and truth. Thank you deeply for being part of this gentle mission. Now breathe in again. We are still walking with God. I want to speak to something you may feel afraid to admit. Something buried beneath your strength. Something you've maybe never said aloud. You miss them. You miss their voice, their presence, the way your soul softened in their company. And maybe you've tried to shut that door, to protect yourself, to be strong, but in the quiet it rises, the longing, the wondering, the whisper of, do they still feel me too? They do. But God is asking both of you to return to him first. Because no love can last without the one who created it. No bond can thrive unless it's rooted in truth. And no reunion can carry peace if the foundation is still fear. That's why this waiting matters. That's why the tears mattered. Because they're being used to prepare the way for something better than what was lost. You may not see their growth, but God does. You may not know if they've changed, but heaven does. And what is meant in the spirit is never truly over in the flesh. There is still a thread tying you, not to hold you back, but to remind you of what God can still redeem. And maybe, just maybe, this is a season not of endings, but of becoming. So let God work in both of you. Let grace be the silence between your names. Let peace rise in the place where pain used to live. If you've been praying for a sign, for comfort, for truth, let this message be your answer. Yes, they wept. Yes, heaven heard. And yes, God is not done. If you've stayed with me this far, you're not just listening to a message, you are participating in healing. You are welcoming peace where sorrow once lived. Let that peace expand. And if this message has touched your heart, don't keep it to yourself. Send it to someone who needs hope. Be the bridge that leads someone else to this sacred stillness. And if you feel moved to offer a super thanks, please know it helps keep this channel flowing with spirit-filled messages like this, reaching others who feel alone in their waiting. Every thank you is sacred. Every offering is light. And every soul it touches is part of your ripple of love. Now let us close part 2 gently. There's still more to say, more to receive, more healing to welcome. So rest tonight, knowing this. You were loved in your absence. You were prayed for in your silence. And your name was spoken in tears that rose to heaven like incense. God has not forgotten either of you. And the tears that once fell in pain are now being gathered for joy. Return soon, beloved soul. Part 3 will meet you with more light. Until then, remain open, remain soft, and above all, remain in God. Welcome again, beloved soul. You've come so far. And now you're here, still listening, still seeking, still letting heaven speak to the tender corners of your heart. This is not by accident. You are being drawn by grace, by love, by something higher that sees the beauty in your tears and the purpose in your waiting. Let's begin gently. There's something sacred I must remind you of today. God does not waste tears. Not yours. Not theirs. Every drop that fell in love, in loss, in longing, he caught it. He counted it. He consecrated it. The person who wept over you. They did not cry because they were weak. They cried because your absence woke something in their soul that could not be silenced. And in that moment, heaven moved, because when a heart breaks open in the presence of love, even if that love is no longer near, the cry is not ignored. It becomes a prayer, a turning point, a seed. And sometimes it becomes the beginning of a divine return. You see, love doesn't end just because the relationship changed. And someone's tears over you are not always a sign of regret, but of revelation. Maybe in losing you, they began to see you. Maybe in the silence, they heard your voice more clearly in their spirit. Maybe they realized you were never ordinary. You were a soul God placed in their path, to teach, to mirror, to awaken, and so they wept. And while they wept, God was doing what He always does, healing, restoring, and preparing a holy way forward, not just for them, but for you too, because you didn't just lose someone. You lost dreams, you lost hope. You lost the version of yourself that bloomed in their presence. But beloved, you have not lost God, and He's the one writing the ending. Not pain, not pride, not time. So can you trust Him? Not to bring back what hurt, but to resurrect what's true. It may not happen today, or in the way your mind imagined, but what is meant in Him will never be denied, and what broke you is blessing you now, even if you don't yet feel the fruit. Pause with me here, dear heart. If this message has been watering your soul, subscribe so you never walk this journey alone. Let peace be your daily companion. Let God's wisdom meet you here again and again. And if you feel safe enough, leave a comment with your heart's truth, your prayer, your pain, or your praise. Your voice matters. It might be the very light someone else needs to see. And if this message has blessed you, a super thanks from your spirit helps us carry this peace to more searching hearts around the world. Every offering goes back into creating more sacred moments like this. And we are deeply, humbly grateful. Now, come back with me to this holy truth. Tears that fall in love do not return empty. God uses them to soften hearts, to humble pride, to open eyes that were blind, to plant the beginnings of new compassion. And when they wept for you, something shifted. You may not feel it yet, but they are not the same person, and neither are you. You've both grown in the silence. You've both been led deeper into God's hands. And the connection you shared, whether it's meant for restoration or simply release, is being made holy. Even now, there's something powerful in surrendering your side of the story to God. It says, I trust you more than I trust my own understanding. It says, I don't need to be chased, I need to be chosen in spirit. It says, I believe that if this is meant, it will be redeemed in your time. And dear soul, He honors that trust. He blesses that surrender. And He surrounds the one you love with the same grace He's giving you. Because love that is pure doesn't just fade, it transforms. It matures. It learns to kneel before God before it tries to hold another. The person who wept over you, they may be closer to God now than they were before. They may be seeking Him, asking how to become the kind of soul that can love rightly next time. They may be realizing what they missed, what they broke, what they can no longer deny. But this is not your burden to carry. Your role is not to wait in worry or fear. Your role is to wait in peace or to move forward in trust. To let God move the pieces of both your hearts as only He can. If it is meant, it will not pass you. If it is holy, it will return sanctified. If it is love, it will find a way through truth. So can you release them into God's hands now? Not in bitterness, not in resignation, but in faith. Can you bless their name with your heart and say, God, I give them back to you. You know what's best for us both. Heal them, bless them, and if it is your will, bring us back together in a love that reflects you. This is where peace begins. This is where your spirit will stop striving. This is where your soul will breathe again. And beloved, that is what heaven wants for you. As we come to the end of this 3-part journey, let's remember the beginning. They wept, heaven heard, God moved, and now you are rising. You are being healed by the very tears that once broke you. You are being led by a spirit that knows what you can't yet see. You are becoming someone whole, not because of what left, but because of what remained. Faith, hope, love, and the greatest of these still lives in you. So hold your head gently tonight. Let your heart rest in God's arms. And if you ever wonder again, did I matter? Let the Spirit whisper back. You were wept for, you were prayed for, you were carried by heaven. You were never forgotten. Pause with me one final time. If these messages have walked beside your soul, subscribe. And stay close to this sanctuary of peace. Let this channel be your soft landing when life feels hard. Leave your prayer or reflection in the comments. Let someone else know they're not alone. And if this journey has blessed you deeply, your super thanks helps us continue offering light to those wandering in the dark. Every seed you plant here helps this message bloom in another soul. From the bottom of my heart, thank you. Now go, beloved, rest in what is true. Walk in what is sacred. And trust that the tears that were once cried in sorrow are being transformed into miracles that you are held. You are loved. You are not alone. Until next time, may God keep you wrapped in His peace. And may the love that wept for you become the love that honors you. Amen. Welcome again, dear heart. You have returned. And that alone tells me something important about your soul. You are tender enough to still hope, still open enough to seek, still faithful enough to believe that love, even in its quietest form, still matters to God. Let us enter this space together once more, this gentle sanctuary where your tears are welcome and your healing is sacred. You've carried so much. You've wondered if the pain you felt was yours alone. You've questioned whether the memories meant as much to them as they did to you. And I want to speak to that place in you, the one that remembers every detail, even when they seem to forget. The truth is this: they didn't forget. They couldn't, because the soul doesn't forget a soul it prayed for. The heart doesn't unfeel what God once joined. Even if the mind tries, even if the distance grows. There are invisible strings woven by heaven. And though some are only meant for a season, others, they stretch through time, across distance, through silence, because they were meant to teach something eternal. The person who wept over you, they were not crying for what was easy. They were crying for what was real, because they realized something. They had encountered a rare soul, a reflection of God's patience, God's kindness, God's unconditional offering, and they didn't know how to hold it. They didn't know how to protect what was sacred. And so, they wept. Sometimes weeping is the soul's way of repenting. When words are no longer enough. And heaven hears that kind of weeping. Heaven knows when a heart is breaking, not in bitterness, but in reverence. You may never hear their apology. You may never receive the full truth. But that does not mean it was never spoken in spirit. There are cries God hears that never make it to the lips, and there are prayers lifted in the dark that are too tender to speak aloud. But God hears, God knows, and God responds. Beloved soul, you were never forgotten in their tears, and you are not forgotten now. Can I ask you something honest? Are you still holding on, not to them, but to who you were when you were with them? Because sometimes we don't just mourn a person. We mourn the version of ourselves we loved in their presence. But hear this, that version of you is not gone. That softness, that faith, that deep way you loved, it's still in you. And it's growing stronger with God. You are not your losses. You are your becoming. And who you are becoming now is someone who no longer needs to beg for love, because they are anchored in divine worth. The one who wept over you. They were responding to the weight of your absence. But you, beloved, you are responding to the weight of your calling. This is bigger than them. This is about you and God. This is about healing what hurt and stepping into what's holy. So breathe here with me. Let peace settle again. And if you've been blessed by this sacred message, I invite you to subscribe, not just for videos, but for spiritual companionship along your journey. Leave a comment if your heart has something to release. Let this be a place of soul exchange. And if you feel moved, a super thanks helps us continue pouring peace into others. It's not about the offering, it's about the impact. Every gift helps keep this light shining for someone else's. Midnight. Thank you for being part of this sacred ripple. Now return with me, back into the stillness of this moment. Do you know what heaven does with tears? Heaven plants them. Every tear you cried, every tear they cried, they became holy seeds, not for sorrow, but for transformation, because God does not just comfort the brokenhearted. He builds with them. He makes gardens grow where others only saw. Grief. And if you've been weeping too, know this. You are not weeping alone. The angels surround you in these moments. They are nearer than breath. And every ache in your heart is known by the one who created it. You are not too much. You are not too sensitive. You are not too broken. You are exactly where grace is finding you, even now. And the person who wept over you? They're being led by that same grace, perhaps not back to you, but forward, toward the light. And that, too, is healing, sometimes. God doesn't return people to your life because He's teaching you how to return to yourself. But other times, He brings them back, not as they were, but as they've become. And if that's the journey you're on, then hold on. Because heaven finishes what it starts. What matters now is not what they felt, not what they said, not what they did. What matters now is what God is doing, what God is healing, what God is preparing. And He's preparing you to be loved better, to love deeper, to live lighter, to rest in peace that doesn't depend on another's presence, but on God's. You are not behind. You are not forgotten. You are becoming something sacred, right here, right now. Pause again with me. If this journey is healing your soul, share it. Don't underestimate how God can use your obedience to bless someone else's pain. And if your heart feels led, supporting this space with a super thanks allows us to reach more searching souls who need light in their night. We are deeply grateful, not just for the gift, but for the love behind it. Now breathe one last time with me in this part. You are remembered. You are wept for. You are prayed over. And God, the one who heard every hidden tear, is still writing the ending of this story. Trust Him. Rest in Him. And return here anytime your heart forgets what is true. There is more to come, more peace, more truth, more grace. Until next time, carry this gentle knowing with you. You were never just someone to them. You were a soul their spirit recognized, and heaven never forgot. Amen. Welcome back, beloved soul. You've walked so far in truth, sat in the quiet with your pain, and allowed heaven to meet you there. You've been brave to listen, not just with your ears, but with your heart. And now you're here, still seeking peace, still allowing God to gently carry you through the mystery of what was, and the grace of what is still becoming. Let us begin again with this sacred reminder. Not all tears are about loss. Some tears are the soul's way of releasing what love could not say. And the person who wept over you, they weren't always crying because of guilt or regret. Sometimes they were crying because they finally saw what you meant, saw who you were, saw what they had not been able to honor. While they had you near, this is not to romanticize the pain, but to validate the truth. Because love does not always come with clarity in the beginning. It often arrives with the weight of unhealed wounds, fears, and unfinished battles. But the soul knows. It always knows. And when you touch theirs, something woke up, something sacred, something they didn't know how to hold, so they wept. When it slipped through their hands, and beloved, that weeping was not empty. Heaven took those tears and turned them into quiet redemption. Perhaps not the kind that rushes back in, but the kind that slowly rewrites the inner story. The kind that tells the soul, you are learning how to love as God loves, with patience, with purity, with purpose. And in that process, your name did not leave them. It stayed. Not always in the forefront, but in the silent sacred places. where prayers are whispered through trembling voices. You may never hear those prayers, but God did, and God still does. You see, heaven is not just watching from above. It is weaving, guiding, aligning. There is a divine orchestration happening behind the curtain of your life, and even when it feels like you're standing still, things are moving, not only around you, but within them. They're growing too, healing too, facing their own wilderness moments, being brought face to face with the truth they tried to avoid, because no one weeps for a soul that meant nothing. And no one truly forgets someone who was sent by God. That's who you are. You were not just someone they dated. You were not just a moment. You were a mirror, a catalyst, a vessel of something holy. And they felt it. Maybe they couldn't name it. Maybe they couldn't receive it. But their soul responded, and eventually, their tears did too. Let that truth minister to you right now. Let it wrap around the ache. Let it pour peace where your questions once lived. Because yes, you were seen. You were felt. You were grieved, not because you were lost, but because you were light. Pause here, gentle soul. If this message is speaking to a tender place within, take a moment to subscribe. Let this space be your well of peace, your quiet refuge in a world that often feels too loud. And if your heart is full, leave your reflection in the comments. You are not alone in what you feel, and your truth might help someone else find their voice again. And if you've been blessed by this gentle offering, a super thanks helps us continue making space for more souls to hear messages like this. It's not just about the gift. It's about the light it helps carry forward. We thank you with open hearts. Now, let us return. I want to speak to something that still lingers in you, the fear that maybe this pain will never go away, that no matter how much you pray, the longing won't lift, the silence won't break, the closure won't come. But listen closely. God is not just concerned with endings. He is the God of beginnings, and He does not leave stories hanging. He redeems them. Sometimes the redemption is reconciliation. Sometimes it's release. Sometimes it's the quiet realization that you are now ready to be loved in a way you once weren't. But whatever form it takes, it will be holy. It will make sense in God's time. And until then, your job is not to fix anything, not to chase closure, not to reopen what God has gently placed on pause. Your only job is to stay open to peace, to trust the process, to let the weeping, yours and theirs, become the water that softens, not destroys, because something is softening in both of you. They may not have said it, but they've been thinking of you. They've been carrying your name in places they thought they had forgotten. Your voice echoes in their prayers. Your kindness lingers in their memory. And though the distance remains, so does the depth. It's okay to miss them. It's okay to love them still. But don't confuse longing with purpose. Longing draws your soul inward. Purpose leads your soul upward. So rise. Let the ache be honest, but let your hope be louder. The person who wept over you, they may be preparing to speak again. Or they may be learning, slowly, how to release with grace. Either way, you are not without love. You are not without meaning. Heaven has already written your worth in eternal ink. Breathe with me now. You are held. You are seen. You are still in the middle of a holy story. And if this message is the light you needed tonight, share it with someone you love. Be the gentle nudge that someone else's spirit is praying for. And if your heart feels led, your super thanks helps us continue creating sacred messages for weary hearts across the world. You are part of this mission, and we are grateful beyond words. As we prepare for part 6, let this remain with you. Wept, you wept, but God rejoices in what's coming next, not because the past didn't matter, but because your healing matters more. You are not the broken one. You are the beloved one. And you are being rebuilt by the same hands that caught every tear. Rest in that tonight. Return here anytime the ache rises again. And come back for part 6, where we will walk together into the promise beyond the pain. Until then, may peace cover you like a blanket. May joy surprise you like morning light. And may love, real love, find its way to you in God's perfect time. Amen.